Hello, let's talk about some good full-size headphones, and today it will be SIVGA SV023. You probably know this company, everyone who is interested in the personal audio knows SIVGA. They created few really good models recently that became popular, and despite many other companies that make focus on the in-ear monitors, SIVGA decided to create full-size headphones, and with each new offering they managed to raise the price to quality ratio. I was really surprised with what their SV021 can offer, and today let's talk about a more senior model 023. It's open back headphones. Here used 50mm drivers with the dynamic dynamic drivers, 50mm dynamic drivers with a beryllium plated diaphragm. As usual, cups made of wood and so on. Actually, what is interesting here is 300 ohms of impedance and 105 decibels of sensitivity. Price is $450, which of course is not cheap, but at the same time it's not crazily expensive for what they have to offer. And let's have a closer look. As usual, links to the official site and shop will be in the description. Package is nice, pretty minimalistic, but I kinda like it. Interesting texture, interesting color, so they spent some time finding proper design for it. And inside of this box, everything is fairly simple. So you're getting case, and that's it. Actually, case is also really good. It's genuine leather, and as you can see, it brings some unusual associations. But jokes aside, case is really well made. Leather, brass elements of design looks really fancy. And let me move zipper all the way up. You'll get headphones themselves, fabric pouch for storage, and stock cable and 6.3mm adapter. As you can see, accessory set is basic, but it's typical for the full-size headphones, of course. In terms of design, they are also really well made. There is nothing super catchy in terms of outlook, but at the same time they have their own unique style. They are perfectly built, it's really great build quality, and you can see that every single element on its place. There is, zero issues in terms of build, in terms of comfort, and they also have their own style. So what else could we wish in this price range? Headband has this classical design with two leaves of springy steel. Clamping force is really well adjusted. They fitting nicely on head and they hold really well, but at the same time they're not pushing too hard. Headband distributes weight really well too. It has this super soft pads that helps to do that. And as you can see, size adjustment is done by sliding this head pad on this headband, so you can adjust it at the proper size that will fit you. Also, you can see that cups have 2 degrees of rotation, here and here. They are not foldable inside, of course, but these headphones are not meant for the portable usage. It's think to listen in some quiet room or something like that. Cups are really great. They're made of wood, if I remember right it's walnut, and each pair of headphones will have their own texture and build. There are grills on the outer side. As you can see, they are semi-open, and actually what surprised me here is the fact that actually they don't leak sound too much. Of course, in the really quiet room audio will be heard by your neighbors, but not more than that. So in my office with many colleagues, I was able to listen them on the normal volume, of course not cranking volume too much. But of course outer noise will be an issue, so this is not the model for the street wearing, definitely. So it's for home listening or for cases like some quiet office when you want to work with music. And also what I really like here is earpods design. Really sophisticated. They used leather on the outside and on the inside, but the side that touches your skin is made of fabric. And I don't know, is it because of this combination of materials or because of the semi-open design? They are really comfortable for the long wearing sessions. I got zero issues with ears overheat. Also, padding here is top notch. I like the stiffness here and or softness, actually balance between these two types of design. And they're not touching ears, so they're providing really good fit and isolation. Well, at least for me, of course, because all this experience is subjective. And they have sophisticated shape. As you can see, they built earpods in a really anatomic way to provide the better fit and better isolation, and because of that, better sound. Cables are made replaceable. Here used 2.5mm connectors to attach the jack. Here they are. So this one is for the right cup. So right cup is here and left cup is here. They are pretty clicky and fits well in place. And cable is also great. It's soft, comfortable with zero microphonic effect, nicely braided, attractively looking. I don't know why other headphones company do that cables with rubber insulation or fabric insulation when they can use just some good, well braided copper. And here it's terminated with 4.4mm connector. So it's the smartest idea nowadays for the full-size headphones to use Pentacon connector. Vast majority of modern players have balanced output in this form factor, so it will be working great with them. And of course, if you don't have Pentacon, you can use this adapter to connect it to 3.5mm out. As you can see, in terms of build quality, everything is really well done. Actually above my expectations, but nowadays, especially for SIVGA, it became like a normal thing to deliver that. And of course about the sound. For SIVGA it's a noticeable step aside from their previous models, because previously they tried to create some kind of fun sound. But in this version they decided to go in a different way and created a more natural signature. They could probably be called monitoring, but thanks to the well-balanced drivers and the nice sound tuning, it's, you know, not clinical, not analytical type of monitoring representation. It's they are not colored, they don't have really boosted low frequencies, but at the same time, thanks to the dynamic drivers, they sound really musical, really refined and pretty enjoyable. Of course, if you have some proper records. I gave them about 60 hours of burn-in, and there were noticeable changes in sound during first 30 hours or so. So if you'll decide to get them, so give them some time to burn in. So bass is not accented. It's definitely not the model for those who need like super weighty accented low frequencies. Subjectively, for me, the quantity of low frequencies here is absolutely perfect. I really enjoy them with the vast majority of my media library, because they are great with acoustical instruments, with some electric bass guitar, with all that instruments that are not synthesized. And actually with electronic music they are also really enjoyable for me, but I clearly understand that if you have vast majority of your media library being some kind of pop music, electronic music, hip-hop, something that is focused on the weighty side of low frequencies, probably you need to look for something more boosted in this area. Or actually you can use equalizer. But for me, even with pretty bass intense electronic music, I like their sound. Depth is really good, but deeper layers of bass are rolled off. They're not trying to dominate. Main accent is made on the mid bass. I don't know, is it on purpose or just happens so, but such tuning most of all suiting, of course, to the realistic instruments, because vast majority of instruments doesn't have that ultra deep bass. And there are some exceptions, of course. I'm a bit generalizing here, but I hope you understand my thought. And with such instruments, they are really enjoyable. Good resolution, but not sound too dry, proper weight distribution, and a nice amount of that rich overtones that gives you sense of realism. So really saturated, but not forward low frequencies that build solid foundation and gives a nice sense of enjoyment. Unless you are a bass head, of course. And first example is classical bass riff. It's Under Pressure by Queen. There are some stories about when David Bowie first heard this bass riff here, when he was in studio where Queen were recording this track. He just begged to give this riff or the whole song to him, but all we've got here is just the duo of most stylish rock musicians singing together. And these headphones represented really great, both in terms of bassline and of course vocal. And another example, more saturated in terms of low frequencies, it's Alexis Cole and We Got Fun. It's typical modern, relatively modern audiophilic track with nice saturated low frequencies with lot of things goes down to the bass area, and these headphones, thanks to this overtone saturation, sounds really rich and refined here. Mid frequencies probably is the strongest part of these headphones, because bass and treble is matter of subjective preferences, but I think mids will satisfy almost everyone. It's a great balance of technical representation and musical sounding. They have a good amount of details, but they're not trying to focus on the micro contrast, and they're not super critical for the quality of record because of that. But at the same time, they give you small nuances and details, but they not emphasize them more than it's necessary. Really great balance, nice weight, nice dynamic, good emotions, but at the same time they're not trying to boost something of that. They're not trying to soft something to give you that vintage analog-like sound. They don't try to be super sharp or analytical. They're balancing perfectly between all that things. Imaginary stage is noticeably above average in width and almost close to maximum in depth. They build surprisingly deep stage for me with perfect layer separation. They move vocal a bit forward to give you more sense of presence. So with good high quality records, they do a lot of stuff in absolutely great manner. And keep in mind that they're not trying to highlight something or to change. So if you use to some really colored representation, probably it's not your option. But if you want it's hard to call them as is, but still close to what is recorded. There is a slight boost in the upper mids area, but it's not too much, so gives a bit of spiciness on top of that everything, but it's not really dominating in the overall mix, because you will be surprised with overall fidelity and refinement of this model. At least I hope so, because that's what was my experience with it. And first example, it's The Living Daylights by a-ha. Unfortunately, I not discovered, but I appreciate this band a bit too late, of course. You know, the peak of their popularity was when I was a teenager, and for me it was like a silly pop band that I wanted just to skip their videos on TV to something next, to get some more metal, more heavy, and so on. And just few years ago I understood that Hackett's voice is perfect. Maybe for me it's the best voice in the history of pop music, and he controls it so perfectly, so effortlessly. If you haven't seen his unplugged concert on YouTube, just Google and enjoy. It's stellar performance of really complicated tracks. So The Living Daylights, it's typical James Bond soundtrack, but with a-ha touch. And of course, instrumental part is great, but let's be honest, a-ha built around the vocal, and vocal rendered by these headphones really great. And on the contrast, on the balance, the music that I was waiting that time, long time ago, it's Enter Sandman by Metallica. And also these headphones played really well balanced and really enjoyable. They're not too focused on the micro contrast, so this track doesn't sound too analytical or too clinical, but at the same time it sounds pretty detailed to appreciate all nuances, and starting with Hetfield voice that started to mature at that time, and ending with that great signature guitar riff. And the treble. Treble is pretty well defined here, and it's detailed, pretty energetic, but at the same time it's definitely not sharp. Extension is not perfect, but noticeably above average. Layering is just basic, but still better than nothing in this aspect. Overtone saturation is really good, so you get good amount of naturalness. Attacks and decays are balanced and close to realism, and actually it's where dynamic drivers, especially big ones, show their strengths and gives you nice sense of enjoyment. And the first example for the treble, it's Pink Floyd, Marooned. This effects at the start of this track with water flow combined with great stage, especially depth, will give you nice sense of realism. And then this track starts to develop and you will definitely enjoy its development, and you will enjoy this amount of treble that these headphones will play. Or actually you won't. I'm trying to project my own perspective towards everyone because I really like this model. And of course, video for this track is also great. It was filmed partially in Ukraine, so I like it. And second example, it's another great classical track. It's Led Zeppelin, Baby I'm Gonna Leave You. It's also just perfect vocal, guitar, and that additional guitar part that appears to the left and to the right ear periodically. Everything is well defined, crisp, clean, enjoyable, and at the same time not super analytical. So I really like the sound of these headphones for this price. In terms of pairing, actually, despite being 300 ohms of impedance, they are not super hard to drive. Even some good dongles can drive them. Of course, if your source will be able to deliver enough of power for that. So, not super critical, but with good player, of course, with some desktop digital to analog converter, they will show their character better. Actually, I like their combination with FIO K5 Pro recent and K9. But there are a lot of other different options, of course, that I reviewed during last year. And of course, M17 is always doing the best job of driving almost everything. And speaking about the comparisons, honestly, I can't recall any models to compare because there were some headphones in this price tier, but they were so long ago that I can't even recall them. I recently tested Beyerdynamics DT900, but DT900 is slightly more focused on the micro contrast, slightly more analytical, so this one is a bit more musical and overall bit more balanced. I'll prefer them a little bit more to my taste. And that's the only model I can recall. Hi-Fi and Sandara, I don't know why, but someone compares them. But for me, Sandara sounds much more focused on the micro contrast, bit drier and lightweight. So to summarize everything, SV023 is a really great, enjoyable model that offers really well balanced, mature sound. Of course, not for those who need some coloration, but for those who also don't want being headphones super monitoring and super dry. So perfect balance and with a reasonable price. Thank you for listening, thank you for your attention, and of course have a nice day.